All right, hey everybody watching at home and live and on the replay, all that stuff. So I'm just now getting around to doing this. I know it's something that, well, actually, I don't know if I ever really brought it up on the channel before, but it's been a couple weeks since I saw the Batman with the Robert Pattinson. And so but I'm while I download some files and whatnot, I'm on my computer, so I figured out why not just jump on right now and just do a quick review of the Batman for everyone watching. Um, so just right off the bat, jump right into it. I would give the Batman a solid B plus, right? And in the back of my mind, I kind of had doubts about sort of being that kind to this film because this movie has a lot of problems. It has a lot of problems, but while it also does a lot of things wrong, it also does a lot of things right. And so in that regard, I do. That's why I give it a B plus, maybe a B to B plus, whatever. But just all in all, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was well made. It was directed by Matt Reeves and was released by Warner Brothers. And so yeah, so this film, I'm sure all of you have seen at least one Batman movie, in your lifetime. And so, but for this particular film, it's basically kind of like like a reboot of sorts. It's sort of like a retelling of the Batman, mythology. So when the movie starts, basically, it starts basically like it doesn't start like a typical superhero film, right? Because if you've seen the other Batman films, you're sort of assuming, oh, okay, Batman jumps around, he fights crime, beats up the bad guys, drives around the Batmobile, gets the girl in the end, and mopes around about his dead parents. Well, this film is a lot more grounded in reality. It's not really superhero centric. It's not. There is CG. There's action in it. It's not like devoid of action, but it's more crime based. It's more reality based. And I feel like this might be the quote unquote darkest quote unquote realistic take of Batman that we've had so far, whether in film or TV. I know the comics. I'm not too familiar with the comics. I've read a few Batman comics, but I know that obviously comic books are differ a lot from film and TV in that they can go to a lot of places that film and TV can't, and they could take it to some really intense places. This film is rated PG-13. First of all, it's not R-rated, but it is PG-13, and I feel like this movie, like I said before, it's a lot more serious. It takes itself a lot more seriously than any other Batman movie before. Even even movies like The Dark Knight, right? The Dark Knight is probably considered possibly the greatest Batman movie ever made, for a variety of reasons. But this movie, I mean, this movie is literally called The Batman, and it definitely earns its namesake. It's definitely you know what I mean. It's how do I say this? When the movie starts, sort of getting back to the premise, when the movie starts, the film's villain, who's played by Paul Dano, he plays a serial killer called the Riddler, and he's basically going around Gotham, murdering politicians or murdering key political figures in Gotham. And it's basically up to Batman and Gotham PD to figure out who's doing this and why they're doing it and how to stop it. um, and so, first of all, this movie is long as fuck. It is literally, I think it's almost like maybe like a few minutes shy of being 3 hours long. So it's definitely the longest Batman movie. It's also the slowest Batman movie. I feel like it might even be. Well, actually, no. I think that honor still goes to The Dark Knight Rises, which is a terrible movie. Don't watch that. But this movie, like I said before. Anyway, so getting back to it. So yeah, so that's sort of the general premise is that Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. Spoiler alert for those of you who don't know who Batman is. He's Bruce Wayne. He's trying to work with Gotham PD to figure out who's doing these crimes, committing these crimes, why they're doing it, who's next, and how to stop it. And and there are certain key players in this film: Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, obviously, Paul Dano, the Riddler, and potential love interest in. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this by now, but Zoe Kravitz, who plays Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman. Um, and you also have Colin Farrell, who's entirely unrecognizable as the Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot, and you have uh, Carmine Falcone. I think that's how you say his name, played by John Turturro, and and so those are sort of all, and obviously Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon, and so those are basically all like the main characters, main actors in this film, and they all do a pretty solid job. Robert Pattinson plays Bruce Wayne, but for most of the film, he's actually not on screen as Bruce Wayne. He's actually portraying Batman. Most of the time, Batman is in costume. Like, he's on screen for a lot in this movie. There's a lot of Batman in this movie, um, and so it's. I mean, it really depends. I thought sort of, the because Bruce Wayne Batman does get an arc in this film, which is different from all the other films. Because in those other movies, it's sort of usually Batman shows up, what I mean, new villain comes up, and they fight, and then in the end, Batman wins, and it's basically sort of how it's always been. But here, Batman actually gets a pretty interesting character arc and development throughout. So he does, his character grows and changes throughout the film. By the end of the film, he sort of matures, and I feel like, uh, where this is still, the Batman who's relatively new to the crime fighting scene. He's not, I mean, technically, this film is in year two, so he's only been doing this for like a couple of years, so he's still relatively green. But I feel like this is an interesting, reintroduction, quote unquote, metamorphosis to the Batman legend, as well as a couple other figures such as Catwoman and Jim Gordon. I feel like they're all introduced into this, you know, being rebooted for this particular film, and they all sort of have a ways to go. But that's interesting because I am a fan of character development, as are a lot of people, even for a movie such as Batman. You need character development. You need layers. You need depth. You need real drama. You need character arcs that you can relate to and understand. And that's something that I feel like no other, even the Christopher Nolan movies before this, no other Batman movie has really sort of tackled. They haven't really tackled, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman's, maturity or his personal growth. Um, so I feel like this movie is the first film or first live action depiction to do that, and so it's very interesting. I don't know if it works completely, but I do give the movie props for that. Um, let's see what else. So a lot of people were praising Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I honestly didn't really like her as Catwoman. I do feel like her literal portrayal, as basically like like a thief, right? As like part of Gotham's underground or whatever. AKA quote unquote cat burglar, Catwoman. She got that part down like really good. Like for the most part, it's a pretty comic accurate depiction of Selena Kyle. In fact, it might be the most comic accurate depiction we've seen so far. Um, you know but uh but does it really stand out? I mean, does it really make an impression on me? And the answer to that is no. I didn't really feel like that her performance stuck with me. I'm seeing a lot of reviews saying that she's sexy from men and women. So and I mean, yeah, Zoe Kravitz is, she's an attractive woman, but did she really stand out? Does she really pop on the screen as Selena Kyle? And excuse me, like I said, I don't think so. I think just like Batman, she has a ways to go, right? She's still developing, she's still maturing and growing into that sort of role that we all know and love, right? But when it comes to comparing, I mean, hey, if we're gonna compare, portrayals, on-screen portrayals, prior to this movie, I would still say Michelle Pfeiffer is the top Catwoman for me. Even though her Catwoman was not really comic accurate, it wasn't really, to my understanding. I would still say, memorable wise, she made a stronger impression as Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman. Um, but again, everyone's gonna have a different opinion on everything. That's why they're called opinions. But anyway, so just a couple of other characters to wrap up before I move to the next section. So we have Jim Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright in this film. I feel like he did a good job. I feel like sort of his relationship with Batman in this film was sort of akin to sort of those, like kind of buddy cop movies, like Lethal Weapon, Beverly Hills Cop. I don't know, like the nice guys, like anything that features two people who are kind of polar opposites working together, and they mesh well in order to solve a crime, right? Like they're working, for the law or whatever, like buddy cop. You know what I mean? That's the sort of feel relationship that I got from Gordon and Batman in this movie, and so I feel like that was portrayed well. It's kind of hard to compare him to, like, for me personally, I feel like the best Jim Gordon so far has been Gary Oldman, who plays Jim Gordon, who played Jim Gordon for the Christopher Nolan movies. But it's not really a fair comparison because he had 3 movies to develop that character, whereas Jeffrey Wright has only been in 1 movie so far. So maybe like a few years from now, when he's developed the character a little bit more, then we can sort of compare him to other portrayals. But yeah, he was fine. I don't really have any huge complaints. Paul Dano as the Riddler. Mm, I mean, it's hard. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with the Riddler character. I'm not too like I only know a few characters here and there, like Batman, Catwoman, maybe the Joker. But like the Riddler, I believe the only other time we've seen the Riddler in a movie or live action movie was Batman Forever, where Jim Carrey played a god awful version. Like in that movie, Jim Carrey wasn't playing the Riddler; he's basically playing himself. I'm pretty sure that's what the studio and directors told him to do. Because at that time, it was 1995. It was like peak of his stardom. So of course they were going to capitalize on that. But in this movie, though, the Riddler is depicted as a serial killer who likes to leave riddles for Batman, like exclusively just for Batman. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff like to this movie. This movie is a very interesting film. I actually have been contemplating on seeing it again because I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? I thought it was well made, and there's a lot of things. Like I said, it's a 3 hour movie, so there's a lot of things in there, and I'm sure I didn't catch a lot. So I might go back and watch it again later. But just in general, though, like the Riddler was fine in this movie. I don't think he had a ton to do, but he was more sort of portrayed by Paul Dano, as sort of just being unhinged. You know what I mean? And his plan, I won't spoil it, what the Riddler's up to. Like I said before, he is killing people off, and it's up to Gotham PD and Bruce and Batman to solve it. But his motivation sort of involves Bruce Wayne as well as Batman. So I'll sort of leave it at that. Whether or not the Riddler actually knows who Batman is, or if he knows that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person, I'll leave it up for you to just for you to find out if you haven't seen the movie already. But I did enjoy. There's a one scene though in particular, quote unquote interrogation scene, where Batman is sitting down across from the Riddler, who's been caught and locked up in Arkham Asylum, and they're just having a conversation. And Riddler's plan, what's up, kid? And Riddler's plan, sort of comes out a little bit, and he starts talking about, like the dual identities of Bruce Wayne and Batman. I'm basically gonna stop right here because I feel like that would sort of give away a key plot to it. But I did enjoy that though. I did enjoy that. And what else can I say about this movie? I mean, again, if you're a Batman movie, you might enjoy it. I feel like one of the strengths of this film was that it focused a lot on the detective side. Because Batman is known as the world's greatest detective, and that's literally something that even Christopher Nolan, when he was making his movies, like every single director has somehow managed to avoid incorporating into their portrayals of the Dark Knight of Batman, right? They don't, like, I think like the animated series in the 90s sort of focus on it, here and there, but up until now, he's just sort of Batman has been portrayed as sort of more like straightforward crime fighting. You know what I mean? Like, he's not really sitting down. It's not really you don't really see him doing any detective work, quote unquote. So this movie, like I said, it's almost 3 hours, but there's a lot of Batman, doing detective work in this film, and I thought that was really refreshing. I actually thought in general this movie was refreshing. The only thing that really got to me was sort of the length. The length of the film it could have been shorter. I definitely felt the length, almost 3 hours. Not every movie is Endgame. Not every movie needs to be 3 hours long, And this movie did not need to be 3 hours long. And when it came to the action scenes, though, the action scenes are pretty sweet. Action scenes were good. I want to say the action scenes were better shot than they have been in the past, especially for the Christopher Nolan movies and Dark Knight trilogy. Those movies, you couldn't tell what the fuck was going on, like at any point in time. I think it got a little bit better, as those movies progressed. But just in general, especially Batman Begins. Oh my god, I was rewatching that the other day. I couldn't tell what the hell was going on. Um, Sorry guys. So yeah, if you guys are watching right now, just joining me right now. This is live. I'm giving a brief live review of the Batman that just came out a couple weeks ago, and yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed it. There is a big, how do I say this? If there's one thing that one major complaint that I have about all these Batman movies is that they always depict Catwoman as like basically just like fighting alongside Batman, right? Or you know what I mean, like teaming up to help him in his mission, right? Like they always do that, and I'm getting tired of it because Catwoman, she's always portrayed as a lot more heroic and in a more positive light than she should be. In the comics, she's a villain. I don't care what you say about her. Catwoman is a villain. She's part of the rogue gallery, right? And so, but she's always Batman's girl. She's always there, right beside him, helping to save the day. They did it in the Dark Knight. They did it in Dark Knight Returns. Did it here, and they did it in Gotham. You know what I mean? Like I think like the only real sort of uh was it like portrayal that sort of was felt more villainous to me from Catwoman was Batman Returns 30 fucking years ago. That's how long ago we got that, and I still feel like that is the best portrayal of Catwoman. But I'm sorry, I know I've been sort of talking most of the time about Catwoman. This movie's called The Batman, it's not called Catwoman, so I'll get back on track. But that was one complaint that I had, though. Is that I mean, and if you saw this movie and the ending, you know where they're gonna take it. Eventually they're gonna end up together, and she's gonna help him more and stuff. It's just like she's a fucking criminal, dude. Okay, Catwoman is a villain. Stop portraying her as a quote unquote anti-hero. Keep her as a villain. That makes it more conflicted between her and Batman when they meet up, or shit like that goes down. But yeah. So anyway, um, and then there was another negative thing that I had about this movie was that they spoiler alert. I will talk about this one spoiler. So if you haven't seen this movie, don't want to be spoiled about what happens towards like the very end. Then I'm gonna give you like 5 seconds to click out now or mute me because I'm gonna talk about it because it bothered me. All right, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so spoiler alert. At the end of this film, the Riddler does not die. He is locked up in Arkham Asylum, and one of his cellmates is a person who we are believed to be is the Joker, or at least sort of some sort of version or early version of the Joker. He's locked up in there, and it turns out he's actually been played by the same guy who played one of the Eternals in the god awful Eternals movie that came out a few months ago. So he's still getting work apparently after that. But no, I mean it's just like for me, I don't. It's cool. It's a nice Easter egg, but I don't need to see the fucking Joker over and over again. Okay, like they literally just did a freaking solo movie, called Joker, which loosely incorporated elements of his character in the Batman mythos a few years ago with Joaquin Phoenix. You know, like please, if we can make like I dare Matt Reeves, I dare anybody fucking who makes a Batman movie in the future to make a movie or series or whatever about Batman that does not have the Joker in it. I'm sick of that shit every single time, man. Like you know what I mean? Like yeah, Christopher Nolan had a very memorable one. We had Jack Nicholson, we had Heath Ledger, we had Jared Leto, we had Joaquin Phoenix, and now we have this guy. And I'm sick of it. Please don't incorporate him into any more. Like I know they're trying to ground it. I know you know what I mean, all that stuff about it, but just for the love of God, just skip this character for once. You don't have to keep incorporating him, using him all the time. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. Just stop. I'm getting burnt out over this character. Please don't. Um, so that being said, I going forward, I do hope that for this series that they include hello that they include other villains that we haven't seen before, like maybe more mob based villains, like what's it called, the dummy, or sorry, no, not the dummy. That's not his name. The ventriloquist, right, with Scarface. Who showed up, I think, in the animated series. That was awesome. I hope that they incorporate him. That would be great. That would be awesome. Him or like Deadshot or Hush, anybody like that. I mean, I heard they're talking about using Mister Freeze for the next one, which good luck with that. I don't know how the hell you could ground that in reality, but whatever. but we'll see, I guess. But yeah, that those are my hopes for the future. Is no Joker, make Catwoman more of a villain because that's what she is. I don't give a fuck who she's an anti-hero. Yes, but give us that villainous side too. You know what I mean? Um, so that please don't incorporate the Joker. I don't know if anybody from Warner Brothers will be watching this video. Kind of doubt it. But if anyone is, please don't do it because I'm burnt out over that character. I hate that. Um, Villainous Catwoman and use more mob based villains and flesh out the characters more. You know what I mean? I don't feel like when it comes to comparing different Batman and whatnot with each other, this was a fair comparison because I feel like Robert Pattinson was only Batman for maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes at most in this film. Like I said before, there's a lot of Batman. Batman is on screen a lot in this movie. It's literally called the Batman, and it doesn't disappoint in that regard. You see a lot of Batman in this film. Um, there's a couple other things, honorable mentions that are badass in this movie, like the Batmobile. Like holy shit! If you ever wanted to see like a Fast and Furious take on the Batmobile, this is it. It's fucking awesome. It's badass. That scene alone is worth the price of admission. It's amazing. I'm not gonna spoil it more. You literally have to experience it. Just go buy yourself a ticket, sit down, and enjoy that scene alone. It's amazing. And then who Colin Farrell is the Penguin. Like another like a really good, really solid turn. Like Colin Farrell is probably one of the most underrated actors out there, and he gives a great performance as I guess. Well, he's not technically the Penguin yet. You know what I mean? But his rise to power or whatever, like there's a lot of potential there. I thought he was a lot of fun in this film. So hopefully that character develops more and we get to see more of the Penguin in the future. I wouldn't mind that. But anyways, guys, so that's gonna wrap up my review. Like I said before, I give it a B plus. It was solid. It had some problems, which I went over, but it's not a terrible film. It's actually a pretty good film. It's not gonna be for everybody. Like I said before, it's almost 3 hours long, and it's not your traditional, quote unquote superhero movie. It's more crime based. It's like Seven, right? Like elements of Saw or Seven mixed with, Batman, and it's basically what you get in this film. So it's very slow in parts. There is action, but it's more, procedural based, more crime procedural based. It's more, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's a solid film. Just go out and see it. It's pretty good. And anyway, so yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up for me. If you enjoyed it, if you're still watching, awesome. Please like, comment, subscribe. By the way, I am doing a 1 year anniversary for this event, quote unquote event, 1 year anniversary celebration for this channel. It's coming up soon. It's actually coming up in 2 weeks. So on April 2nd, I will be doing a couple things for this channel. That are going to be live, and I'm going to be premiering another short film that we just shot that I'm editing right now. And I've got some other announcements to make as well. But anyway, yeah. So that's my review. Like, comment, subscribe. I will be back eventually. Cool.